Hello, this is Reverend Iris again. So I wanted to make a quick little video about tarot, and I was just thinking about it right now, and it came to my mind for two reasons. One, I'm getting ready to go teach a tarot class, but second of all, I was in a chat today, half listening because I was busy, but I was in a chat today and they were talking about tarot, and one person was making a comment that if you're not spiritually open, you shouldn't read tarot, blah blah blah. It's something about the energy. I didn't really hear the whole conversation, but anybody that's new to tarot, I want to explain something. And some people are saying it's very hard. It's not that it's very hard, because it's not. Anybody can learn to read tarot, anybody, okay? It's just that you need to use your own intuition that sometimes we second guess ourselves on, and I still do to this day, okay? So let me explain something. For one, I tell my students, anybody that I teach tarot to, I tell them, like, listen, don't let me be your only teacher, okay? Because this is a class. We only have so much time to learn so much. It's really your journey alone and your job to go out there to advance those skills, because you get out of it what you put into it, okay? So you should really learn from a couple different people. But not only that, a lot of it comes from your own intuition. So listen, the cards, they each have their own basic meaning, whether it's reversed or front facing, okay? And even people will have different opinions on that. And let me tell you, don't anybody tell you ever that you're doing it wrong, okay? Everybody reads tarot differently. So you have your basic meanings of the card, okay? But let me tell you, everybody reads differently, okay? So if I'm going to have, I read tarot, and I read tarot my own way, my own style. Even the other reverend that's teaching with me, like we're tag teaming together, she has her own version. So when we teach tarot, we do it together, because she has some insight at one card and I might have an insight on that card also, to be able to add on to that. All right, so if you're to learn to read tarot, obviously you got to know the basics, okay? But the biggest part of it is symbolism and your own intuition. And you use your spirit guides that you have, your higher power, whatever your belief system is. You use those tools with you also, because you always have your ancestors and your loved ones around you, and are always more than willing to help you mind to open up a little bit if you're having a hard time. Because let me tell you, you're always going to get that person that's going to sit on the other side of you and just be no expression, not say anything, completely closed off. Either they don't believe it, or they're told that you should never say a word. They have to come at it all themselves, okay? We're human. So listen about the intuition part and the symbolism. So like I said, each card has their own meaning, all right? But the symbols on the card will also stick out with you too, and also will tell you a story. And that's very important. This is how I read cards, all right? I go by what the card means, and I go by the symbolism that's in the cards. Okay, so listen, so if I lay out the spread, and some people pick up each individual card and say what it is, I take a stop. I look at all the cards in there, and I look and see what story is telling me from beginning, the middle, and the end. Okay, I even look at the placement of the people cards. I'm just saying for simple terms for you guys, and those are the court cards, which are the page, the knight, the king, and the queen. I look at their placement. I saw one guy that said, I look and see how they look at each other. Are they facing away from each other? Are they looking at each other? What story they're telling? And I heard that a few years ago, and that really stuck in my head. So you look at the whole picture first, and then you could break it down to little pieces from there. Okay, so what if you're reading for somebody, okay, and something pops out in that card, okay? The only thing you see in that card is a mom holding a baby with the house behind him, and you know that she's outside because she's getting ready to welcome home for somebody. So what if that card doesn't mean exactly that, but that's the only image that popped out in front of you in your reading? So you're doing the reading, and then it pops out, and it's probably because your third eye, your intuition's telling you, hey, Listen, she's waiting for somebody to come home so that it's special to her, and she has new beginnings because she has new life inside of her hands. Okay, it really depends what other cards are laying beside it too, but that's just an example. All right, a very simple one. So you go by the symbolism, you go by what pops out at you, you go by your intuition, because all of those pieces of the puzzles together will give you a better reading. It doesn't have to be, this is what this book says on this card, because you have to understand that book that you read for the meaning of the cards is their interpretation. Okay, so if you read another book with the same exact card picture, it'll have the same basic meaning, but then it's going to be their interpretation of the card. So you need to find the middle that you feel comfortable with, that's your interpretation of the card. All right, so you don't have to be all knowing before you read tarot. So actually yesterday I heard some lady saying, and she's a pretty good reader. I listened to the other people she was reading for, and she was spot on, and she didn't know any information about them to know whatever. But her intuition was coming through. Her third eye chakra naturally opened up, and it happens when you use a form of divination. And she was saying things that there's no way this lady could have known. Good part of it was in tarot, but part of it was her intuition. So, but there was a couple of them that she says, now she's been reading tarot for a while, and she said, I had a stroke and I have trouble sometimes. I forget what some of the cards mean, so just I'll quickly look at it just to make for clarification, basically. And I wanted to say to her, sweetie, you don't have to. You don't have to. You're good. You use your intuition. You use without second guessing yourself, because whatever she's thinking comes right out of her mouth, which is a good quality to have and a curse to at times. But anyways, so, and if she just would have took a moment instead of letting that, like, oh my gosh, what does this mean to go along with this card? If she would have stopped, took a look, listened to what her guides have to say, and look at the symbolism of the card, she would have known the story that went along with the rest of the cards, and she wouldn't have had to. One card in the tarot, if you're a beginner, if you're not understanding exactly that purpose, that meaning, but you have a rough idea, it's okay. Because your spirit guides and their spirit guides are going to pass the message through you to be able to speak them. Okay, so you don't need to sweat on the small stuff, honestly. Okay, so, and they say, you know, you should learn to read on the Rider-Waite. Yes and no. Okay, and this is the reason why almost all books are based on that deck of cards, and that's what I learned to read on. So still to this day, if I get a new deck that I really like, I memorize the Rider-Waite deck. You know what I'm saying? So if you say, you know, the Tower or the Sun card or the Temperance card or the Nine of Pentacles or things like that, I instantly know the image in my head. I memorize what all the cards look like. So that means the new deck I have, I compared to symbolism. Okay, so I'll give you an example. Some lady the other day, she had a deck full of ravens on it, which ravens might think, but anyways, it was a chariot. Okay, and the Rider-Waite deck, it's a guy riding a horse with a white horse and a black horse, which represents balance, the yin and yang, and it could mean travel too, because they're going through the air with the chariot, but also going to mean the balance of your life, of moving forward in which direction you should go, blah blah blah. But anyways, so I said, all right, it means balanced. You have the black and the white for yin and yang. Her card didn't have a chariot in it. And I said to her, I said, look at your card, compare these two, and by the definition that we just gave you, look at your deck, because this is their version of what that card is. Look at that deck and what symbolism is going to poke and stick out at you in your face, that you're going to remember of the words that we just gave you, what the meaning is. You know what I'm saying? So if you want to learn tarot and you read it in a book, you stop, look at your deck, and what symbolism of it is going to read it back to you. You understand what I'm saying? Like, what symbolism of those words that we said that can you relate to? So hers was the raven, and I think the wings were like this, and there was a couple other little things in the picture that represented the balance that they were trying to give. Okay, and I said, you know, how does that represent to you? You know, they're inflated, but they're kind of looking a little wobbly, and they're trying to get steady, but you know they're in motion and they're going somewhere. So visualize what that meaning is and look at that picture and get to know that card. And that's another thing. If you're learning tarot, pick one deck and stick with it until you really get to know that deck. Don't move on to the other one, because that's when you're really going to get confused. Okay, so really get to know that deck, so when you go on to a new deck, you'll be able to have those symbolisms with you, and you'll remember, well, I remember this deck I know very well, and this card was this, and you look at your new deck, it's like, okay, I can see how this can relate. You know what I'm saying? Like, people make it too much. Let it come a little at a time. It takes time to read your cards. Study them. I also tell them, read up on the major arcana, read up on the Fool's Journey, that tells you the story of the journey from beginning to end. Same thing with the cups, the wands, and so forth. Okay, so you lay all the cups out. That's a story too. That's a story from the ace all the way to the 10. That's a story. It's telling you all of them. Same thing with the swords. Same thing. You lay them all out, and each week or a couple weeks, however long it takes you, you lay those cards out every day. Look at the story from beginning to end, and then break it down from there and practice those symbolisms. So I just wanted to explain to you that, you know what? Tarot's not as hard as you think to read, enough to be able to get by, to do the basics, because your guides are there to help you, to give a message across to the person the other side that they need. And that comes to yourself too. Is it harder to read for yourself? Yes, absolutely. You want to know why? Because one card with other cards right next to it can sway different ways of the meaning, so you can interpret differently. Okay, so a lot of it goes on your intuition, the symbolisms, and the cards do have their basic meaning. And then you can go break it down even further from there. You know, like we had just had a debate last week, the wands, okay? Or people have different names, staves or whatever. So some say it's a fire card, and some say it's an air card, and that energy is different to it. But let me tell you, to let nobody tell you it's wrong. If to me it's fire, and to somebody else it's air, that's what it means to you. Just like if you think a black cat is bad luck and I think it's great luck, well, to you that is bad luck, because that's your symbolism that you're going by. That's your own intuition. You know what to pick up on. Anyways, I hope that helped a little bit. I hope you guys have a great night. I need to hurry up and get going. The sun's starting to go down, and I don't want to keep people waiting, and I want to make sure I get my coffee in before I head up there. I hope you guys have a beautiful night. Blessed be, and make sure that you guys, before you try to do tarot, is that you make sure you say that you're gonna do this reading in perfect love and perfect light. Ask for your spirit guides to come with you and help guide you, and ask for protection around you, because if you open yourself up for good, you open yourself up not so good either. And then make sure you say thank you at the end to your guides and your higher power. Well, have a blessed night. Goodbye.